And next up, podcast listeners, Dems don't believe America is exceptional. So get this. There's this congressman. He was just elected from New York, and his name is Jamaal Bowman. And he's a new congressman. He was just elected last year. And so he just started his new term in January of 2021. And Jamaal Bowman is a black congressman, and he has decided that America is a bad country, it's not exceptional, and it is systemically racist. We've heard this before, right? But here you have a guy, and I just want to read what they have about him in Wikipedia. He's an American politician and educator. Oh, that's scary, right? Serving as a U.S. representative from New York's 16th Congressional District since 2021. The district covers much of the Bronx, as well as Westchester County, which, by the way, is a very wealthy area, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and Bowman's hometown of Yonkers. Bowman is the founder and former principal of Cornerstone Academy for Social Action, a public middle school in the Bronx. Let me say this again. He's the former principal of Cornerstone Academy for Social Action. That's the name of the school, a public middle school in the Bronx. Now think about a school called, at the end, Social Action. What is that really going to be about? Education? Are you really teaching them about reading, writing, mathematics, and science? Are you teaching them about history? Oh no, it's about social action. Well, this same guy said, it's time to stop spreading the myth of American exceptionalism. And we have a clip on that. We're going to talk about that in a minute with Delegate Morgan. And here's the clip.
But this is a chance for all of us in Congress to sort of begin at a new baseline and stop spreading the myth of American exceptionalism and accept the fact that this is exactly who we are, and this is exactly who we've been throughout our country's history. Whenever there's social progress, there's white backlash, particularly from the people who believe that this needs to remain a white dominant nation, and they are afraid of the multiracial democracy that we are becoming. Right after we send our first African-American and Jewish senators in Georgia to the Senate, right after that, the day after, we have an attack on the Capitol. This is a new baseline, and now we have to deal with the issue of white nationalism seriously in police departments, but also throughout all of America's institutions.
Your thoughts about this lovely congressman?
Well, I mean, he's crazy. When you sit there and look at it, first, race is a hard subject to breach, to talk about. But to think that, and racism obviously existed. There was structural racism,
under Jim Crow, for sure.
Jim Crow, Civil War. But to say that we haven't made progress is ridiculous. That gets rid of all the legislative achievements of the civil rights movement. And he's talking about American exceptionalism. No country in the world has fought harder against racism than America. America is a mixed race society that has fought extremely hard and is probably the least racist nation on earth. And I'll give him a matter of fact on this, because I've heard this talking point several times. If you look at immigration logs, by 1980, twice as many Africans from the continent of Africa migrated or immigrated to the United States than ever came on slave ships. Why is that? Because they came to the land of opportunity. And both rich people and poor people from around the world, the one thing they have in common is once they make it or want to make it, they want to come here. And we're special and different. And if America is not exceptional, then I'd like to, if he can point to a map where our equal is, I'd be interested in hearing that.
Here's what I think is interesting. The guy's a United States congressman, and he's saying the country's not exceptional. Well, he's a congressman. Like, there are only 435 United States congressmen across the United States. So he's one of only 435. He is obviously a very special person in that he has this very high office that he is holding, and he happens to be black, and yet he's still angry. And this is what I don't understand. And I think that what's going to happen is and he is right about one thing, there is going to be pushback, and there's going to be pushback for good reason, because there is a point at which you say to someone like Congressman Bowman, hey, look, Congressman, you are at this really high level. You make a lot of money as United States Congressman. You have free health care. You have all these great benefits. You've got a pension. You have all the stuff that most Americans don't have.
But you just answered it right there. That's the reason why they say that, right? Because he gets the good salary, the job title, the pension, the health care. You know, they're saying this stuff for their own individual
Always.
gain.
Always.
And it's not like they can run on their policies working anywhere. Socialism has a 100% failure rate across the entire world. They act like this hasn't been tried before. There was a time where over 2/3 of the world was communist at one point, and it's all collapsed and failed. So it's a failure ideology that they believe in. And it's really troublesome that our country is being pushed that way. And I mean, he's a hustler to get through his agenda.
He really is. And I think that a lot of this is happening too in America because as more and more members of our country who are Black start voting Republican, and that is happening, you're seeing more and more extremism on the Democrat side because they know that what is happening is there is becoming more diversity of thought in the Black community, and it scares them because they're so used to people just jumping on their plantation and doing what they want. And it's without question a plantation of low expectations, really. And it's low expectations because if you ever notice, so many of these individuals who are like Mr. Bowman, they had a job before they became congressmen, but it was almost always a public job. In his case, he's a public school principal for middle school. And so he was in the public sector, but does anyone actually measure his success as a public school principal? I mean, did he advance people to the point where they were able to go to college and really learn well? We don't know. We don't know because there's never any reporting on that. He just gets to go and whine all the time and complain. Yet he was in a position of helping children very early on in life in middle school and really making a difference. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but I haven't read anything about it because I've been trying to read a lot about this guy.
Well, I bet you'd be a fascinating person to interview because I'd like to know when exactly, when, in his opinion, when have we solved the problem?
Yeah.
What is the solution, and when will we know we solved it?
Right. They just want, I'm sure with people like him, I mean, by the way, that's a great point. They can't identify how to solve the problem. I agree with you, because if they do, then they can't keep people in their community in a perpetual state of crisis. And that's how they gain and maintain political power, is by keeping people in a perpetual state of crisis. And it's great for him, right? Because he gets to stay in Congress, making his $200 and some thousand a year, or however much they make these days.
But we know the solution, right? The solution is your family, the conservative principles, where you're an individual, where you work hard and you get ahead. Those are what matters in this country.
I agree.
And for people to sit there and say, well, working hard, that's another culture.
So true.
You're robbing people if you're telling them that because they believe you. And when you're this jaded, I don't see how anyone gets ahead.
And that is the last word for Dems don't believe America is an exceptional.